Blog Talk Radio.
Woohoo! Hey everybody, it's time for the Love Channel Show. Sit back and enjoy the show.
The earth, the air, the fire, the water, so it is. Begin again.
Welcome to the Love Channel Show. This is your host, Pamela Cummings, with your co-host, Birdie Bird. Oh, now we got quiet. My parakeet, Birdie Bird, was quiet until I started the radio show, I swear. And just wait, he will start again. It's because I was talking about him. So anyhow, welcome. It is Tuesday evening, 8 p.m. Eastern Time, and I am here every Tuesday. Tonight, I'm actually doing the show on my own. I'm going to be talking about dreams, different types of dreams, some hints on how to interpret your dreams. And I really felt that song by Linda Irwin, Begin Again, would be an interesting way to start the show because, you know, it is unique, and I mean that in a nice way. Linda Irwin is on Unseen Worlds, which is a show on Blog Talk, which is about aliens. And when you think about dreams, they are really strange and out there. As so to some people the concept of aliens. Anyhow, if you would like to find her music, I have a link on my website for her music and all the other musicians who are on my show that you hear each week. And my website is www.PamelaCummins.com. I think I've announced, but I'm going to announce it again. I am now doing the musical message of the week, where I get a message from my guides and angels, because they call me the musical psychic, because I often get messages that way. And that is on YouTube. So you can just go to YouTube, and it's Pamela, and the last name is Cummins, or on my website, which is the same. So again, if you want to call in, the guest call-in number is 646-478-0020. However, there is so much I can talk about dreams. I'm going to be reading from a dream series blog that I did. Excuse me. I have always been fascinated with dreams because they really are the link to our subconscious mind. So why would we even want to look at dreams? I mean, aren't they just a bunch of scribbled up, make no sense thing? No. They are really the way that the angels, guides, our subconscious, our higher selves, and even our ancestors and loved ones who have crossed over come to us and communicate with us. I really freaked a woman out one time. It was kind of funny when, everybody says, when you're awake, you're in reality. And I said to her, I said, well, how do you know that when you're awake, you're not really dreaming? And when you're dreaming, that's reality. And she just looked at me and she's like, don't even say that. She got so nervous. But dreams really do say so much about who you are, issues that you need to work on. And before the show, I was thinking about, I'm fortunate where I can remember a lot of my dreams. And I can even remember a dream when I was 5 or 6 years old. And me and this cute kid, he was a boy. I've always been, a little boy crazy. But we were running away from a witch. And we actually had to climb and up on the wires, the electrical wires, except in my dream, they were all white. And, we were trying to get away from this evil woman. And it was pretty scary. And quite honestly, I can't even begin to interpret that. Maybe I felt like I needed to get away from my mother at the time. Who knows? But I have been really studying my dreams since like 1990, 1991. And working with a spiritual advisor / therapist, helping to interpret my dreams. I was going through some memories of my childhood, and they were coming out in my dreams. The other good thing that happened was that I had repressed my psychic abilities because, quite honestly, it wasn't safe. And they started coming back, and they started coming back through my dreams. It takes a long time to really understand your dreams. All right, I often refer to it the secret language. And when you think about how long it would take you to learn Latin, for instance, or medicine, it takes about that long to learn your dreams. And it's funny because I got a song lyric. My guides gave me a song lyric, and that was, don't give up on us, baby. So don't give up on the dream interpretation. One of the things that you do need, though, is to either write your dreams down in a journal, or for others, some people aren't writers, is to record your dreams. This is really important. And you do it as soon as you wake up, because I don't know how many times I've said it, heard my clients say it, heard my friends say it, my family. Oh, I had this dream this morning. Oh, what was it? You forget, okay? But when you first wake up, it's usually crystal clear. So write it down or speak it. And, like many of us, we have our lives, and you might be like, oh, no, I only have this amount of time to get ready for work. So what do you write down, or what do you speak about? Well, the most important thing, honestly, is your feeling in the dream. That is so important. And then highlights of the dreams. I know for me, I would have so many dreams and would go, it was like chapter 1 going into chapter 2, blurring into chapter 5. Those were the types of dreams that I had. So please write it down. And quite honestly, it is important because I know that I wrote my dreams down for many years. The other thing that I often hear people say is, I can't remember my dreams. Well, you know what? I can't say that I remember every single one of my dreams, but believe me, you do dream. I think, I'm not very scientific, but I think it's called REM when you dream. And when you're in, you need that dream state in order to live, in order to survive, okay? So, yes, you do dream. So what you can do to help remember your dream is before you go to bed, you can say to yourself, tonight I'm going to remember my dream. Or you could write yourself a letter, actually stick it in an envelope, put it underneath your pillow, because subconsciously your mind picks that up, okay, to help you remember your dreams. And you might think that's weird, a letter underneath my pillow. Well, a lot of people will say if you're studying for an exam or whatever, to put the books by your bed. It's like your subconscious mind reads them. I know that when I was learning how to do tarot, one of my teachers used to say, sleep with your cards, because it gets in there. The other thing you can do, which honestly to me is the easier, softer way, is to ask your guides or angels, please help me remember my dreams. And if it takes a while, that's okay. The learning the secret language of dreams, it takes a long time. I did it from like late 1990 to probably about December 1999, writing down my dreams a lot. And the reason I started, quite honestly, is a month before 2000, I got my cat Midnight. Before 2000, I guess, was supposed to be the KY, whatever that was called, KTY, and it was like the end of, the millennium, and the world was going to explode, which the world is always ending. But so I got this cat, Midnight, and when I woke up in the morning and I tried to write down my dreams, she would not have it. I needed to get up and serve her. I remember actually one time trying to write my dream down, and she was attacking the pen, and I said, forget it. But you know what? By that time, I could easily remember my dreams a lot more, and the important dreams I still remember. Okay, so one of the things people ask about is dream books. Should I go out and buy a dream book? And quite honestly, if you want to, fine. But you have to remember they're very general. If you're actually going to go out and buy a book, I would actually recommend a book. It's called The Secret Language of Signs. It's by Denise, and her last name is Lynn, and I think that's Linn, the way it's spelled, not Lynn. But if you Google The Secret Language of Dreams, and she's written other books, I think The Sacred Space, she's written a lot of different books. It's a really good book because not only does it really doesn't explain symbolisms of dreams, but it explains symbolism, what different things mean. And what something might mean to you will mean something different to somebody else. And I want to give you the example of dogs, okay? Let's say you're dreaming about dogs. Well, dogs usually mean unconditional love and loyalty. When you talk to a dog owner, that's what they're going to say. You can hit that dog's going to come back and love you anyhow. They're very loyal. You don't mess around with an owner of a dog. I actually, for some reason I'm remembering this story, so I'm going to say, I had a friend who had this huge, it was a King Shepherd Lightfoot. Okay, Lightfoot loved me. He loved women, and I used to go and visit him during my lunch break, and when I was in school, and I'd give him part of my lunch. So I was definitely, on the top of his list. And I was about 15 or 16, and this guy, we called him Red because he had red hair. He was messing around, kind of boxing with me, and we were just playing. Okay. Well, do you know Lightfoot jumped up in the air and snapped right like an inch or two from his throat, warning him, "Don't mess with her." And, of course, he didn't mess with me, okay? And this wasn't even my dog. I was just, good friends with the dog. So dogs definitely are loyal. However, if you if you've been hurt by a dog, or if you're scared of dogs, or for instance, I love dogs, but a Doberman Pinscher, ooh, they freak me out. I had a dream one time about a Doberman Pinscher, and it was really evil, okay? So you can't always go by the dream books. Let me see. Let me think of another example. All right, let's say a rabbit, okay? Well, a rabbit could be as scared as a rabbit, okay, because rabbits can be really scared. It also can be abundance. But to some people who, let's say their father was a magician, it might be, doing a magical act. So it does mean a lot of different things. So I will, and again, you can call me at 646-478-0020 to anyone who's out there listening. Be more than happy to help you interpret your dreams. If not, I'm just going to read some of my dream blogs and share a lot of my dreams because quite honestly, I remember my dreams a lot better than my clients' dreams. I do obviously do dream interpretation, and I even write In the Dream Time, which actually is the name of the show, but it's In the Dream Time for Belle Esprit magazine, and that's BELLESPRIT.com. It's a free online magazine, and I write 2 columns in there, and you can find that on my website too. But here's a great example that I had many years ago. Oh my God, this was back in, probably 1992, about 93, because that's when 93 is when I started my self-employment. And I was working at a car dealership doing bookkeeping. I was an assistant bookkeeper. And I had this dream where I had just finished watching half of a movie, part 1. And I was really excited to watch the other half of the movie, right? And one of the salesmen said to me, don't bother. You don't have to watch that. And I said, but I really want to. I was really excited to see the other part. And all of a sudden I looked over and I saw the service manager. Now, the service manager was a tall, kind of lanky guy, real sweetheart, okay? And he had long legs, and his legs were crossed, and he had big feet. He was a big guy. And at the bottom of his shoe, there was a hole. And then I saw another little hole starting, okay? And I woke up, and I immediately knew what the dream meant, And I actually remember telling this one guy at work about the dream, this one guy who I could talk. And I told him the symbolism, and he was blown away. But what that dream meant was the first part of the movie was actually my life, all right? The second part of the movie was what my life could be like. The salesman saying, don't bother, you don't need to watch that, was people who were saying, don't change your life, don't change from being a bookkeeper to what your passion is, okay? The bottom of the manager's shoe was actually my soul. And my soul was getting a hole from doing this work. And if I continued to stay where I was at, I would get even more holes in my soul. Pretty cool, huh? That's because I learned how to interpret my dreams. So dreams are very tricky. All right, so the first type of dream I want to talk about is kind of fun type, and it's environmental dreams. And I have the blog, Pamela Psychic Insight, and I did a whole series on dreams, and I don't think I'm going to have enough time to talk about precognitive dreams. But you're more than welcome to read these, okay, over there. Environmental dreams. Environmental dreams are very funny to me because what is going on around you or within you is what the dream becomes. For instance, in one dream I dreamed I needed to urinate. I went to one stall, and there was someone in there. Every stall I came to was filled. So frustrating. It seemed like forever, but finally I found an empty one. There was no door. I didn't feel comfortable going because there were men and women there. Boy, when I woke up, I really had to go, okay? And I've had many, many variations of this dream. So In another dream, and I've had this, when I was my first job at 16, I was working at Burger King. But so in another dream, I was working at the Burger King soda fountain. Okay, I was so thirsty that I ignored all the other soda orders and kept filling my cup and drinking soda. Gulp, 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 gulp. But it seemed I couldn't quench my thirst. So guess what I did when I awoke? Of course, I went and I got something to drink because I was so thirsty. Okay. This is funny. An old roommate of mine once had a dream about being chased by a very loud piece of machinery. Upon waking up, she discovered that a workman was using a jackhammer right in front of the house. Because where I lived on, it was like the street and a little bit of sidewalk. So they were doing that, you know. In one dream, I had this feeling that I was being watched. It was really creepy and woke me up. Before I opened my eyes, I heard deep breathing. When I opened my eyes, there was my cat, Merlin, staring at me. So I'm sure that has happened to other dream owners. And I just got a vision of like a dog licking a guy's face. How many movies have you seen where somebody's dreaming of making out with a beautiful woman and it's their dog? And I'm sure that does happen in real life, you know. But you know, all of the above dreams show that people are still aware at some level of what is going on in their environment while sleeping, which is a good thing because it protects us, and it's the source, obviously, of some very amusing dreams. I know that, if I'm over somebody's house and they walk, into the room where I'm at, or maybe their husband or a friend walks into the room, boom, I'm up. I sense their energy. So in a good sense, it's kind of good. And I'm sure it wakes you up. If there's a fire, it wakes you up. If there's a volcano, a lot of times it will wake you up, all right? So pay attention to those dreams. Okay. The next dream I'm going to talk about, and this is important, recurring dreams. And recurring dreams can be very frustrating. People will complain, why am I having the same dream over and over again? Why? Okay? Well, the universe is trying to tell you something, and you're just not getting it. That's why it's being repeated. Just like just like life will repeat the same lesson over and over again. For example, dating the same type of man with different names and faces, dreams will repeat themselves until you get the lesson. And if you didn't understand the example, a lot of times people will call me and say, I'm dating this man and he has an issue. Oh, let me try and make up an issue. Okay, guys, I'm asking my guys, what issue? He's unemployed, and he wants me to take care of him. And and there's women out there too. It's not just guys. And what will happen is if you don't solve this issue, okay, you're going to say, well, forget this. I'm not taking care of him. But, for all I know, maybe your father was always unemployed. So you're attracted to unemployed men. So if you don't take care and look at that issue at that moment, what will happen is the universe is going to bring in another attractive man. Your ex-boyfriend might be Peter. This guy's going to be Ralph, right? And guess what? He might be working, but he's going to become unemployed again, all right? So our lessons repeat, whether it's in life or, in our dreams. So here's one of my dreams that I had in my early to mid-20s. I would have a recurring dream. I was in a small room that had a ton of dressers with all types of drawers. I would open them and find all kinds of treasures. It was so exciting because I never knew what kind of riches I would find, and they were always worth a lot of money. I can still feel how I felt in the dream. It was like, oh, my God, look at this. And I would get so excited because, who doesn't like going somewhere and finding treasures? So I would stuff all this booty that I find into my pockets, my purse, my bra, wherever I could find. And I was like, oh, I'm finding all this stuff. But obviously when I woke up, I was disappointed because I was like, why couldn't I have that beautiful necklace? Why couldn't I have all that money? I was obviously disappointed. Okay. And, one day, a few years later, after working on dream symbolism for quite some time, I thought about my old recurring dream, and I had those dreams before I began my self-growth and spiritual journey back in 1989. And all of a sudden it occurred to me that those treasures hidden away in, the dresser drawers or the closet drawer, because a lot of times it was closets on the wall and, all kinds of shelving, was really symbolic of all the riches that were inside of me. And what I really had been doing in those dreams was looking for who I was, who the treasure inside of me that needed to come out. And then I realized with that thought that the dreams had stopped once I started on my healing path. I think that's so cool, so awesome, okay? Because I had started to explore who I was inside. And, I'm a big advocate of looking at yourself, bringing up your garbage, bringing it, an old teacher of mine said, when you bring the demons to the light, they disappear, okay? So I really think it's important to do that stuff. Here's another recurring dream about needing to grow. I knew a woman who always dreamed about being terrified to cross a bridge. And in her waking life, she was also terrified of, driving over bridges. Bridges can be a little creepy, but she was really scared. I remember being in her Volkswagen Bug and, kind of having to talk to her. It's okay, and talking her through, But in the case of her dream, she was really actually afraid to reach a career goal, okay, to go through this goal, and although I haven't spoken to her in many years, unfortunately, friends, we do go our separate ways, but I know that she's really successful, not only in her career, but in her life. She has children, she's married, and her life is much more together than it was back then. So, I'm sure that she has reached the other side of the bridge, and I'm sure it's probably a little easier for her to cross the bridge. Now, you can also look at it a spiritual way, because I just got this insight as I was talking, is, for all you know, she could have had a past life where she died crossing a bridge. That could have happened too. Okay. Here's another common recurring dream among my clients, and honestly, I have these dreams too, where my client is dreaming about an ex over and over again. The ex is always coming up in the dream, and that can be very frustrating, obviously. And, the dream may have variation, but, the ex is always there. This can represent quite a few things. It can represent a need to move on, maybe forgive the relationship, or it can represent other issues within themselves that need to be resolved. It might also mean that they will see their ex again soon. And in some cases, not all cases, all right, excuse me, but in some cases, the romance will have a second chance. So, really cool. Okay, we're going to my voice needs a little bit of a break, okay? And again, if you have a dream, you need help interpreting, don't hesitate to call 646-478-0020, and we're going to take a short commercial break with a song. During this brief intermission, I would like to thank you, the listeners, for making the Love Channel show possible. So those who are listening in the queue, or in the chat room, or even in the archives, I want to thank you and let you know that you are so important and valuable to me. If you are on Twitter, please follow me at Rev Pamela. you can visit my website, www.PamelaCummins.com. That's CUMMINS.com. You will find freebies there. You will find the links to my books, Psychic Wisdom on Love and Relationships, and Insights for Singles, Steps for Everlasting Love. The links there will bring you over to Amazon or Smashwords, and Smashwords has the book in many different formats. Or you can go to Amazon and Smashwords and get the ebooks or books there. You can also book a reading or a coaching session, and I even do email readings. You will also find links for the musicians that are on this show. So, it's time to go back to the show. Yay, and we're back. And that song, another Linda Irwin song, was Kaleidoscopy. And again, you can find her music on my website. I do have a link for the musicians on the show, PamelaCummins.com. And we have a couple callers, so wonderful. Give my voice a little bit of a rest. So we're going to start with this one, 208. Hello,
hi, Pamela.
208. Hi.
Hi.
And who am I speaking to?
Misty.
Hey, Misty. How are you?
Oh, I've been pretty good. There's been things going on.
Sounds like life. So what can I help you with?
Well, the last few nights I've been having these weird dreams. They're like all these animals are starting to come to me, and at night I'd be tossing and turning and dreams coming in and coming out, and it's like constantly I'm dreaming every night, and it's like I'm putting a puzzle together. Well, last night I couldn't figure out what this dream was about, but it was about there was a boa constrictor that was yellow with white diamonds on them, and then my cat that disappeared 4 weeks ago all of a sudden showed up in my dream. But I remember beating the snake because he kept trying to eat my cat.
Okay. Oh, wow. And I mean, and there's a bunch of other dreams too with different types of animals.
Yeah, like one of them was I was at the ocean and I kept hearing the word sea turtles.
Okay.
And they were coming in. And then the night before, or the day before, when I was laying down taking a nap, cows kept coming in my dreams. So I was like,
Okay.
what's going on?
Okay. Well, obviously you're getting in touch with the animal world. All right. Let's go back to the first one, snakes, and about the snakes, because what was your feeling in the dream? Your emotional feeling?
I was scared, but yet,
Okay.
and then I got angry.
Okay. All right. Well, okay, yellow, okay, and snakes. Snakes is about transformation, okay? And it's about shedding the old, okay? Yellow, when I think of yellow, I think of the sacral chakra, which is taking your power, okay? And the cat, obviously, is like your baby, okay? But cats also stand for independence, mystery, and spirituality, and intuition, okay? So basically, you are letting go of, like, some of the old stuff, okay, and taking your power back when it comes to, your independence and your spirituality and your intuition. Does that make sense?
That does make sense.
All right. Now I want to go to the sea turtles, okay? And I think you live like in the Midwest or something like that. Is that correct?
I do.
Okay, so you don't get to the ocean, obviously, very much. What was your feeling, when you were seeing all these sea turtles?
I was excited.
Okay.
And I felt joy.
Okay. All right. Okay. And a sea turtle. All right. What I'm picking up from this, and again, this can be, in so many ways, because I see somebody, in the chat room saying letting go of your old stuff and welcoming in the new when it came to the snake dream. Okay. The sea turtles, to me, turtles are slow. However, in the sea, because of the waves, all right, the sea turtles obviously move a little faster because they're being pushed. How was the ocean? Do you remember how were the waves and stuff? Do you remember that?
It was calm.
Okay, it was calm. All right. But you also felt joy. All right. So what I'm getting, and also water is, the calm. So emotionally, it wasn't like turbulent. So things are calm. Emotionally, you felt joy. The sea turtles are moving, and you are slowly but surely moving forward. Okay. Does that make sense? All right. Now, I'm interested about the cows.
Yeah, the cows.
Before wait a minute, Misty. Before you do that, because I'm looking in chat, it's kind of hard to look at chat and do the radio show. But somebody wrote, turtles are slow on land, like I said, but faster in the ocean. Felt joy. Would this have anything to do with the baby she's going to have? Okay, because think about it. The right now, obviously, the baby's calm. The sea turtles are emerging out of the ocean. And if you think about the ocean, actually kind of is like the womb for Mother Earth. So.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Well,
so there's another interpretation. Okay, so let's hear about the cows. Sorry.
The cows, it seemed like there was a big herd of them, and they were all grouping together, like hurtling down together and working together. But they were around me. They formed a circle around me.
Okay. All right.
I felt safe. I didn't feel threatened or anything.
Yeah, and when I think about cows, obviously, that you don't really feel threatened. You would feel more threatened, obviously, by a bull. But cows are pretty mellow. They're protective. It's really funny. I'm getting the song lyric, "We are family." Okay, so they're family. They're herd. So what that means to me is that your family is going to, take care of you through this time and protect you. Okay, and my guides are also adding that it doesn't necessarily mean blood family, but your spiritual family, your herd, the people who you're among with.
Right. See, and I almost wonder. Yeah, I'm almost wondering that the angels are protecting me because I have gone through a lot here in the last couple of weeks. And
right.
I've been putting my foot down and standing up to what I believe. And with my grandpa passing away a week ago, I had to go down to my other family down in Nevada, and that was very terrible. But I learned to put up a shield and just ignored it all.
Right, and you know what? First of all, I'd like to say I'm sorry for your loss, and I'm sorry for your experience too. But what you showed, right, is that you are the best interpreter of your dream, okay? Because of course, the cows could be angels, could be your spiritual family, could be your grandfather.
Okay.
Okay. Yeah,
okay.
Definitely. And, and again, when you think of cows, again, I'm hearing the song, "We Are Family." So, the herds. And obviously we have more than just our earth family. Besides just blood, we have the friends who feel like family, but we also have family on the other side.
Right.
Yeah, so that's really cool, and I'm glad that you called in because animals, they come up a lot in my dreams. Animals are very symbolic for so many different things. Now, if those cows were like kicking at you and stuff and like surrounding you in a very scary way, then I would say obviously the people who you're around or your family is not safe. But obviously the people who you choose to be around who feel like your family are safe and are protecting you. Okay? So that makes sense, right?
It does.
Okay. All right, hon. I'm going to thank you so much for calling, and I'm sure I'll talk to you soon on Facebook or whatever, and I'm going to put you back in the queue. I got one more caller, okay?
All right. Thank you.
You're welcome. Awesome dreams. Awesome. And what a wonderful example for everybody else. All right, I'm going to take the next caller is 719, and this has got to be Kelly.
Yes, ma'am.
Hey, Kelly. For those who don't
know,
good. Kelly has a spiritual learning channel, and we used to when I just left Psychics Gone Wild, and so did Kelly, but we used to, do a show together, so that's why I recognize the number. It was, and you're going to have to come on as a guest and stuff. But I know you said yours was not necessarily a dream question, but that's okay. Well, the angel said
it kind of sort of is, because mine is the kind of the opposite. It's from studying stuff in college. I know, quote, no knowledgeable, that we dream every night, and they'll say that, sleep experts will say that, we have usually 3 or 4 dreams every night. It's just a question of what we remember and what we don't. And I think mine deals more with, since I know I'm dreaming, how come I don't remember my dreams? What is there, is there too much stuff going on? Am I not getting enough sleep? It's like, what is happening that I am, I'll say one of the few times here, it's like, it's been a long time since I have not remembered dreams, at least ones or scraps or, something. So it's like I've been in a total place where I'm not even remembering my dreams. I'm like going, wow, this is kind of weird. And I know Misty has been keeping a dream journal, and I've kept the dream journal for on and off for a long time. And to have nothing to report is like, wow, what's going on?
Okay, so you've been a dreamer before? I mean, you've remembered your dreams before, okay?
Lots of them, yeah.
All right, because like at the beginning of the show, I said some things that you could do, but, obviously that's not the case here. So I just want to clarify it. And one of the things I did hear, it's a really old song from a commercial, and it's from McDonald's, you deserve a break today. Okay? So, but sometimes
I got a really rude ending for that back in high school.
Okay, well, let's be nice
Later.
because this is a PG station. I don't put it mature because I want other people, I want, teenagers and stuff to hear it.
We were a bunch of teenagers who made this up. It's not not really bad. It's just kind of like,
Believe me, I could sing some childhood songs and people would be shocked. I'm going to behave. No, but sometimes we really just need a break. I know there's sometimes when I will dream constantly and I'm like, oh my God. And sometimes I just don't remember my dreams. And sometimes you just need that sleep. If you want to start remembering your dreams, just ask your guides. But, there was a long time ago when I was going through like some post-traumatic stress stuff. I won't go into the details. And that was when I was really getting in touch with my dreams. And, I was having dreams every night. And I really wanted more information. And it was around Thanksgiving time, okay? And a counselor of mine recommended this hypnotherapist. And this was long before I became a hypnotherapist. So I went to the hypnotherapist. And, and she did a hypnosis session that I would remember more details and more stuff coming out in my dreams, all right? So I'm like, yes, and it was a great session, and that's, I loved hypnosis after that. And what happened was I stopped dreaming. My dreams were blocked because it wasn't time for me to have stuff revealed to me. That's what happened. So maybe it's coming out. Okay, and I just got this intuitively because I know you're gifted, all right? And it feels like your gifts are starting to come more on the earth plane, okay? So watch your psychic abilities, your intuition. I bet that is getting stronger. Okay, and you don't need so much. Okay, you know exactly what I'm talking about. Okay, because I heard ding 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 ding.
Ding ding yeah, exactly. Oh. Yeah. So sometimes it's I've never known what to call them. I mean, like you talk about your group, and it's like I've referred to my group, for a while, and a lot of times, that's what I was so used to was. They would give me messages in dream state because I was relaxed, I wasn't tense, I wasn't running around. It was one of the times during the day I was actually sat down and unconscious and still in one place, and they could talk to me.
Right.
Like, yeah.
And that's
so I kind of got used to that.
Yeah, but because, and that happened to me. I used to get and I still do, okay, but I would get so many psychic messages, precognitive dreams and psychic messages, in a lot of solutions, like almost every single night. And when my abilities really started coming out, and, I was using them more in the waking world, I didn't need them so much in my dreams. And it's the same thing, because you're more connected, because you're subconscious, intuitive mind is coming more in the physical state. And it's the same thing, like one of the reasons our loved ones come, who have passed away, come and visit us in the dream time is because, one, our vibration is so much higher, so it's easier for them to come to us. But we're also more open to it, okay? Because, even now when people come and visit me, when I'm awake, it's kind of like, whoa. But when I'm dreaming, I don't, it's much easier to accept. Do you understand that?
Right. Yeah, you don't have all your, I hate to say fear things kick in, but it's like, when you all of a sudden kind of like, see something that's, is not have a physical body, kind of like standing there, you kind of go,
right.
Even though you've seen it before, it's like it's kind of a surprise, So
exactly.
I think that's part of it. It's like trying not to be surprised at the things that are not necessarily in as solid a form as we are.
Right, because who was it? Albert Einstein. He used to. I think it was him. I could be wrong. he used to meditate, okay? And what he would do is he would hold these metal balls. So because he would ask for like a solution to an experiment, okay? And he'd go into like a meditation kind of sleep, but he would, sit holding these metal balls. So because a lot of times solutions come to us in our dreams, and what would happen is, subconsciously. So it would start coming into his dreams, right? And the metal ball would slip, and he'd wake up, and he'd remember him.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it was pretty smart because...
So it was a trick to wake up.
Yeah, which makes a lot of sense because I remember years ago when I had my blue Honda back then. It was probably, 93, 94, and I was waiting for this group to get started, and I had like an hour. So I sat in the car, and I said, well, this is a good place to do my self-hypnosis meditation. And so,
there you go.
Yeah, it was safe. I was by a fire department. I was at a church parking lot. Nobody was going to mess with me. Okay, I felt safe. All right. So I go and I'm in the dream state, and I'm like, oh, that's the answer. That's so easy. Oh my God, how simple. And I woke up and I was like, what was that? Okay.
Oh no! You lied.
I was so mad.
Over the bridge, right? And down into the ravine.
I was so mad, So,
I had the answer. I lost it. But it's in there. That's the really frustrating part. Is it's in your brain. How do you make it come out?
And you know what? That's when you have to be patient. And I can't even remember. And I'm sure it came to me again, but that's when you have to be patient. And that's the same thing about when it comes to interpreting your dreams. Obviously, you can do it because I saw you in the chat room, and you were doing, you were basically getting similar stuff and some different stuff, when Misty was on. It takes time to learn all that. So you're not going to get it overnight, and I think that's really cool how, you have to trust God. You have to trust the angels when it comes to when the dream's going to come through, when the solution's going to come through, and when your like spiritual, psychic, intuitive abilities are going to come through. Because I know I was like, I want it now. We all do. We want it now. I want to know the dream now.
God, give me patience right now.
Exactly. So I actually think it's a good thing. You're being blocked for a reason, and it reminds me of this hypnosis session I did, back in the 90s with this guy. He came in and he's like, I want to know the reason why blah, 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 blah. And he's like, and there's a block that comes up. What do you do when a block comes up? And what I said to him is, I try once, twice, maybe 3 times gently to get around it. I don't force it. And if I can't get through the block, I respect it. It's there for a reason. It's there for protection. So, if people out there in radio land, if you're having problems remembering your dreams, okay, or even your nightmares, maybe it's just not time. And it's, and it's protection, but even nightmares. There's nightmares.
I remember my nightmares. I've sat up with those, my heart pounding in a sweat going, how few of those? You remember those?
Yeah.
Because they'll wake you right up from a dead sleep.
Yeah, most of the times they do, but some people will sleep through them. There are some dead people, but, not dead people, who sleep like the dead, I should say. But I have a suggestion. Yeah. Thank you for bringing that up because I can't get into any other dreams, but I definitely have to do this again. But this is what I do when I have a nightmare, okay? One is I usually turn on the light because I know that I'm not going to be able to go back to sleep, okay? I turn on the light, all right? Because if I do happen to fall back to sleep, I'm going to dream the same dream again. All right?
You're going to be right back in the plug, right where you were in the train track or whatever is bearing down on. It's like, hi, I was here. I was just here. Let me out. Right.
But what I do is I actually go into like a meditative state, and I kind of bring myself back into the dream. And it's funny because I'm hearing this old song, I Got the Power, okay? And I go back into the dream, and I take the power back. For instance, here's one dream. I had this nightmare where I was in a basement. I was with my niece, and there was in the back, in the back room, I heard hee, 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 right? And it was,
God.
And I was terrified. And my niece was 2 or 3 in the dream. She's 23 now, so obviously this is quite some time ago, right? And I was trying to pull her away, and she started walking back to the back room, all right? And I'm freaking out. And I woke up, and I knew that I was going to go right back into the dream. I said, okay.
No, I got to get you out of there. It's like, don't you hear that maniacal laughter? No, run!
Right, exactly.
Right.
So what I did is I went into meditation, I went back into the dream, and my niece actually went into the back room, okay? And there was a witch in the back room, okay? Really creepy looking, right? And she said to my niece, yeah, she says, come here, my dear. And I said, no, Cynthia, don't you dare go near her. And she's like, come here. So what I did is I picked up a bucket of water, and I threw it at her, and the witch went, I'm melting. Like the Wizard of Oz.
The Wizard of Oz, hadn't you?
I know, how original, right? But the thing
it works.
I saved my niece, okay? I took my power back, and I was able to sleep that night. Okay.
That's good. I like that.
Yeah.
Throw a bucket of water, make it dissolve. Yes, that's
exactly. Good. But it really, so this way it stops the nightmare from occurring. Or sometimes there's just somebody who you need to confront and face. Sometimes that you really need to take your power back in real life. So Kelly, we got less than 3 minutes.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah. If there's anything else, when is your spiritual when is your spiritual learning connection show? When is that? Can they just follow you on Blog Talk?
Yeah, because we're doing different days, different times. Friday I've got Maggie Trudeau on. I do a segment on Wednesdays with the Greg Braden book, The Isaiah Effect. Do card reading stuff on Sundays, and I know just kind of bops all over the place. And I've got a couple other things I got ambitious, and I'm doing a health corner one now that's talking about it's about cancer elimination, and it's about the Healthy Survival Kit by Thomas E. Mills. It's an old one. And then we have another one that is Speak Victory into Your Life, which is a praise and worship one. So, yeah, I got ambitious with the free shows. I love them.
Okay, all right. Well, then, people, follow Kelly KC, Rev KC, on the Spiritual Learning Channel. I'm gonna put you back in the queue because I got about 2 minutes left. Okay. So I will talk to you soon, my dear. Oh, thank you for calling in.
Sounds good. You betcha.
Right. I just want to remind everybody that I do write a column for Belle Esprit in the Dream Time. So if you ever need a dream interpreted, and obviously I do, I will teach you how to do this. I will do a dream interpretation for you. My website is Pamela Cummins, CUMMINS.com. You can follow me on Twitter, Rev Pamela, on Facebook, I'm Pamela Cummins, author. I am going to have to do another because I didn't even talk. I have solution dreams, health dreams, dreams connect us to the other side, and post-traumatic stress disorder dreams. All that stuff is really neat. And I know people are really fascinated with dreams. Next week, I have Cynthia Sue Larson. I think that's her name on. And she is going to talk about shifting reality. And I'm still in the process of reading her book. And she talks about, Cynthia Sue Larson. Yes, shifting reality. Yes, that's who I'm going to have on, Kelly's asking. And she even talks about lucid dreaming, which is not really my specialty. So that should be really awesome. I'm excited about having her on, and then I think it's Michael Maps the following week, and then I'm really not sure. I'm still in the process of doing that. Maybe I will have another dream I can't even talk, a radio show. So, yes. So I just want to thank everyone, who called in tonight, who was in the chat room, and a real big shout out for everyone in the archives because, you guys rock. I get a lot of my listens there. So thank you very much. Sweet dreams, everybody, and I will see you next Tuesday. Bye.